Hello, welcome to Once the Force, the Stars podcast. My name is Phil, of course. I'm joined, as usual, by Dave for our Resistance Breakdown. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, my friend. How are we doing?
I'm right, a lot better than you, apparently.
Yeah, unfortunately, if my audio is a little out, as I'm a little under the weather at the minute, so I didn't make the Mandalorian yesterday. I'm just sort of in recovery, so you won't hear probably as much of me as normal, but I am here to go through this episode because I do want to talk Resistance.
Indeed. It was sad not having you for the Mandalorian, but we did have you in the comments, did have you talking along. But yes, we do have you for the Resistance. And right, let's talk about this episode. Thoughts on the whole, I liked the episode. It's a little bit of a step down from last week, though. Although it does jump in the action straight away, so it's not entirely a slow burn. It is all go, which I do like.
The pace was great. The additional story plot, I don't think we needed, but there were some really, really awesome things, some visuals certainly in the episode that were really welcomed. But yeah, you're right. It was a bit. It didn't need the story they told.
No, well, take out one layer. I think it's a really good episode. They just added a bit too much. We'll get into that as we go along. But so this is episode 8. This is Rendezvous Point. So we are now. I was going to say halfway through. One episode short, been halfway through because it's 19 episodes total. One episode 8. So yeah, but we are 1 week away from the halfway point. Again, we are chugging away through it already.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see where it'll go. So this episode. Actually, again, there's some points I like to we'll get through. So I might as well crack on the story now, then we can get into our thoughts as we go along. Story opens up immediately to a dogfight between the Aces and First Order TIE fighters. You see the Colossus, you see some sort of other kind of rig in the background, some sort of space station, we're not quite sure what, probably medical frigate or something. There's no real confirmation of that. And a First Order Star Destroyer. You have the Aces chattering amongst themselves, going, "We need to leave." They want to get out of whatever the situation is. You cut back to Dozer and Yeager on the bridge. Dozer doesn't want to leave yet. Yeager goes, "We have to park and we have to leave." Eventually, they manage to convince them to leave, and as soon as they jump to hyperspace, a lone T-65, I think it's T-65, X-Wing jumps out of hyperspace and lands in the middle of all that's going on. You reveal a woman piloting said X-Wing with a R2 astromech in the back. And of course, she's not exactly thrilled at the situation, fires off a couple of proton torps, gets a little fancy, and gets herself caught up in a tractor beam. Where, of course, she goes, "Well, should we get out of this how we did in Bakar, or how we did in another system?" He goes, "Okay, plain dead it is." The First Order brings said T-65 on board, and they park it up. The troopers say, of course, the astromech is fried. The data logger is also fried. But Tyranny goes, sorry, assuming that Tyranny says, "Okay, bring her anyway. We have other ways of getting the information out of you that we need." Cut back to the Colossus and the Aces Lounge, where you have Hype Phazon and Kaz and the rest of them talking amongst themselves about the mission. Tora isn't exactly best pleased and storms off about her them criticizing her father and the plan in general. You then cut back to the First Order Destroyer, which has Rucklin and Tam on it. They're talking about saying, "Do you actually recognize the woman she's brought past them?" Rucklin doesn't really kind of give that much to hindrance, but Tamora, as you can see, kind of has this little look. She kind of twigs a memory for her. Then cut back to Colossus between Kaz and Niku sat in the hangar talking about, well, Niku goes, "Well, this day has been significant for them for some reason. They always jump off on this particular day, no matter what happens." Cut that to the bridge where you have, Dozer's quarters. We have Dozer and Tora talking to Yeager about what has happened. Kaz bursts in and goes, "I can see you try to contact the Resistance." It's very clear that it's a Resistance ship because it's formed 6 years ago. So every year since then, they've been jumping on that particular date, which actually, again, gives us a really nice time frame for when this is set and how many years the Resistance really has been established before Episode 7, which, again, actually really anchors Bloodline. But I'll get onto that at a later point. Kaz just kind of blurts out, "You're trying to get through the Resistance. Remember, I'm part of the Resistance." And Yeager kind of chastises him and kind of escorts him out the room as Dozer and Tora are just pretty miffed. Cut back to the First Order Star Destroyer. You have Tamora going up to this prisoner, asking her if she knows who she is. He goes, "What do you have a name?" She goes, DT533. She goes, 533, you're a new recruit. And they kind of get backwards and forwards talking about the First Order. At this particular point, it gets revealed who she is. Or is it later on? No, it's later on, sorry. The droid at this point, we then see is being put in a garbage disposal because he is completely actually fried. So 2 stormtroopers just chuck him away, not really thinking about what they're doing. Then we cut back and it is revealed that this is actually... I've forgotten the character's name.
Tora.
No, not Tora. It's Tora's mother. I'm trying to remember her name.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, it is something. Those are apologies that it will come back to me before the end of the episode. I am sure of it. However, they have discussing about saying, she does recognize her. At this point, Torch the R2 astromech comes up behind and shocks her. You get back to Tora at this particular point, who is jumping off or wanting to jump off, and Kaz wants to help her find her mum. It's revealed at this point that on this day they would meet because it's Tora's birthday. Very predictable, but again, we'll get to that in a bit. Again, back to the Star Destroyer, Torch, and it's gonna bug me until I actually remember her name, because it is...
Vanessa.
It is Tasia. That is it. So Tasia, Venetia. Sorry, Tasia. Yeah, Tasia Valencia voices Venetia. It's a very similar name. Apologies. Venetia Doza. Escorting her through the First Order Destroyer. Again, trying to convince her that she's done wrong. Trying to convince her that it's okay that, people make mistakes, that, they are human. It's at this point Ruckland comes across them and holds, kind of has a little bit of a standoff between them. And of course, she goes, well, the only way you're going to be able to take the shot is if you take the shot through Tam. He goes, no problem with that, which Tam doesn't really receive well. But Torch manages to shut the door between the two of them, knowing that Ruckland can't pull the trigger. Then, of course, trace through said Star Destroyer into the hangar, where Torch rigs up a bunch of explosives, while Vinicius, again, trying to convince Tam, fails to do so, but I think kind of helps plant the seeds of doubt before knocking her out with a stun blast. As you then have Tyranny and all the stormtroopers try and chase down this TIE fighter that Torch has managed to rig up, and he escapes. He then ejects. Vinicius is able to get in her X-Wing, blasts out the hangar, Torch jumps in, they jump off. Tora and then Tyranny then gets into discussion, and Tyranny just turns around to Tam and says, you're going to have to cooperate fully with the officer's investigation, because she's not convinced about what was said and that she knows who she is, because she asked Tam, so do you know who that was? And Tam denies knowledge. You then jump back to the Colossus, where the Aces have prepared a surprise birthday cake for Tora, and then Tora meets up with Doza in his office as you see him talking to his wife on a recording, and everybody is happy at the end. Such a good episode, ruined by annoying plot points underneath. They didn't need to be there.
You're absolutely right. It was a fast-paced episode. It took us back to see Tam, which is, as we've been discussing, something I've been waiting for since the first 2 episodes. Really, I want to see how her character's gone and what's happening with her. And it would have been nice to concentrate on maybe that more. The story about the mother coming in was the plot point that I could maybe have done without. It didn't need to be her mother. It seems to add something more to the whole story that we haven't really got enough time to tell.
Agreed. Don't get me wrong, they're going to use it later on for something, you can almost guarantee it, and how they're going to link up with the Resistance and the link there. And it's parallels and it's points of, yes, I can understand how they're using that to try and convince Tam that she has made the wrong choice, but you could have done that with a generic pilot anyway who had just some form of connection. You didn't really need that specific in there, and that's what I didn't particularly... I like it, but at the same time, I found it all too predictable. I also found it very predictable to say it's her birthday as well. It's a case of, I just saw where the conversation was going. I said this to you, I think we've been spoiled by The Mandalorian, because of just how well that show is written. This show is also written well, but again, it's aimed at that younger audience, and the gap between the age gap there is kind of, I think, now plays across. However, if you put your mind back to it on this episode, again, there's some really good points, and what I really like is actually, even if you take it out or put it in, her mother, either way, the connection between Venetia and Tam, and that whole, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be on the wrong side if you realize what's right. And it's, people are human, or people, aliens, again, whatever it is, whatever species you're dealing with can make errors. Not machines, not programmed to be perfect all the time. And again, she also makes the comparison to Yeager. So Yeager, I guarantee he's going to miss you. Everyone will miss you. She goes, well, but I really like those. Tam is really fighting it, but going, my name is DT533.
That was a really nice touch, the fact she referred to herself by a number more than her name now as well. I really like that.
She really is putting that emphasis on that self-belief of, I have made this choice, and this is the right choice for me, and I believe, what they're telling me. She's drinking the Kool-Aid, as it were. She is going, I want peace and order for the galaxy. She goes, no, forget what they've taught you. What do you want, is what Felicia is asking her. And it is that connection that I like, but I like that subtle bit of play between Tam, wanting to go home, but going, it isn't home for me anymore, and that underlying, no, I have made my choice, and I will convince myself that is the choice I want. I think that's the underlying storyline for Tam at the moment. She believes she's making that choice for her, and she's trying to convince herself that that's the right choice.
Oh, definitely. And I liked how the seed of doubt was sown a little bit more in this episode. Once she met someone who was like, look, I know about making the wrong choice. And I mean, she was with her husband, who was an Imperial, and she turned him to the rebellion. So it was like down to her. So she's done this before. She has a history of being able to like talk to someone out of the way of thinking, to go, look, this is the side you're on now, but you've got to look at it from this side. This is not the way the galaxy should be ruled. And
I mean, I can draw parallels to that and the book Lost Stars. I haven't read it myself, but it's on my to-read list. I know the two characters, Thane Kyrell and Sienna Reed, the two main characters in that, are on the opposite side of the rebellion and the Empire, and it's that connection across that I find fascinating.
I do think it was a nice to bring the mother in for that, and I guess that's why it was done. But I think you could have done that with a member of the Colossus already, like a member of the crew. And it didn't need to be probably Niku or Kaz. You probably could have used one of the aces. I think would have been a nice.
I actually think you could have done it with a nobody on the Colossus, just someone that she knows who lives there. It could be a relation of some sort, but it could just be any passing character. It didn't have to be anyone specific, although the connection, it makes it more powerful that way. But again, take it out or leave it in. Either way, the rest of the episode's got some really good points.
Yeah, again, as you said, without it being the mother, I think we had a really strong episode. I loved the look of everything that they did as well. The design of the X-Wing that she flies is absolutely superb. It is an old X-Wing, but it has been updated.
I was looking at it. It's a T-65. However, it hasn't got the quad cannons anymore. It's just got dual cannons, and the canopy actually opens from the side. It's not a drop-down canopy. Yeah, and that's just a few little pieces.
They've said that if you've checked on StarWars.com, it goes into a bit more detail that it's one she's supposed to look very, very vintage. That's why she's got an R2 unit, which the actual Stormtroopers mentioned that they still make these. Like R2 units are out of date now. They have the rolling droids now more than they have R2 units, which is why now R2 is obviously looked upon weirdly, I think, in the prequel films, the sequel films, but that she's had this fighter since the time of Return of the Jedi when she was in the Rebellion. The two cannons that are gone, she has her missiles on the other two, so she's taking two cannons off. But I love the aesthetic of it. I love seeing this old style X-Wing.
What makes me excited is we're getting the fireball for X-Wing. So I just want this now because I want that as in my Resistance fleet, because that would be absolutely awesome. However, I love pieces like that when they take the older units and the older ships and they revamp them, or they give them twists, or just these personal touches. Like, I love everything I love all the Ace's ships. I mean, Taurus I love the most, but that's because I'm a motorsport fan at heart, and I know someone at Lucasfilm is, because that is based on a 1970s Porsche 917. The color scheme is the Golf scheme as well. It really irritates me how it is designed exactly like one. I even tweeted Pablo Hidalgo back when he had public Twitter. I never got a reply from it. I know someone out there is a fan, because that is exactly where it's come from. Someday I will get an answer from someone about that. I guarantee you on this. I'm also interested, though, actually, on this particular shot. of whatever it is in the background here.
Yeah, when you think medical frigate, to be honest, when I thought it looked a bit Star Trek-y for me. It looks a lot like as a Deep Space Nine. Look, I may throw my Trek knowledge out there.
I have no knowledge of Trek, so
I think it's like that, but I think we might have seen that ship before in Clone Wars as well. I'm sure it's a medical frigate for the clones in the Clone Wars. I'm sure that's what they have stationed above on some of the battles. So I'm sure we have seen that before. That's a medical frigate. So it was nice to see that again. Just these flashes of inspiration or artwork that's been used previously now coming back and filling in the background of these new series is perfect for all this work that they do behind the scenes goes into.
Yeah, I also love, again, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about the pacing in this episode. I love this. Feels so much better. The criticism we had, not with last week's episode, but the previous 2 weeks, was the pacing just felt so off. It was so draggy. The creature features were just so... They weren't clunky, but they were just as...
McClunky.
They were kind of... Yeah, they were kind of McClunky, yeah. No, they weren't... You just throw me a bit there. They weren't poorly paced, but they weren't... They just felt draggy, whereas this was straight into the action. Last week's was paced differently, but it was paced well. It was building up suspense, but in a way, it didn't drag, and when he got to the action, you felt you got there at the right time. This was just in for the action at the start, and it just kept on going, and the pauses were placed perfectly. So I actually felt, yes, I liked the interaction. We talked about taking that storyline out, being the mother of that. You don't need that. However, you could have kept it as the aces talking amongst themselves. There's still the criticism of Dozer. You still could have had some form of connection. Being a pilot, they knew you didn't have to be the mother. But again, the actual pauses for those beats was perfect, and the actual action going on again was great. And in fact, it ended again quite fast paced with her escaping, with the hangar blown up, kind of like episode 7. Again, little mirrors here and there I really liked. The actual ending itself with the hologram and this kind of shot here, again, it's kind of nice, kind of sets up something further forward, but could have done without it. However, the actual action, the actual pace of the episode, I thought was very good. And it's one of those episodes where it didn't feel like 20 minutes. It felt like 10. It felt like they really quickly went through. It was actually quite a lot there.
The episode did blitz through. I'll give you that. I've watched it a couple of times before in the run up to our show. And you're right, the pace just really carries you through. And once it starts, it doesn't let up. And I really did like that about this episode. Like you say, with the creature feature episodes we had, where they've got this mission, go get some food, get back to the class, and then go back and do sort of the same thing. That did feel like, oh, come on, just get the point. And that is not the way you want to feel when you're watching something and being stuck into it, especially when it's only 20 minutes. That should never feel like it's dragging out. That should feel like you look up and it's over. And this one really did. Even with the story, I was like, I could do without that part of it. The story itself, the interaction with Tam, I absolutely loved, and that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm in Resistance Series 2 for. They're the relationships I want to see, and her, Tam, still for me is the main point of interest that I have, and how she's gonna turn Newton C. I mean, she didn't give up who it was, which again is just sowing that seed that yes, I'm in with the First Order, but she's still got those links to her friends, and she would not give up who that was.
I think that's the difference between someone who was brought in via their project of capturing kids and brainwashing them from a young age, and someone who's brought in as a new recruit. That's the difference there. It's that human element that you haven't been completely indoctrinated from, not from birth, but from a very young age, when you've been torn away from your family. You don't remember anything else. It's just you have only ever remembered the First Order. Like Finn, who was FN2187. He'd never been given a name. He never knew anything else. Yes, okay, he had his human foible, which allowed him to become the character that we now know and love. And I do love Finn. I think it's one of the best characters to happen in the sequel trilogy. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his storyline in episode 9. So I kind of feel they kind of almost did him a disservice in episode 8 a little bit. But that's a different story for another day. But his human foible that made him quit the First Order and run away is the same foible that's haunting Tam, and that nagging doubt in the back of her head. Again, that's what I'm here for as well. I completely agree. Don't get me wrong. Love Kaz, love Niku. Niku's the character that's grown on me the most throughout the series. Definitely. I found him so irritating in the first couple of episodes, and now I absolutely adore him. I absolutely adore Niku. It's one of those. He's that character who just grew on me throughout. This is the first episode. I was like, I can do the animation just, but I cannot do Nikio. Now, the animation doesn't bother me. In fact, actually, I like it, and I don't, but Nikio, I absolutely adore Nikio. But it's the interaction. It's this one here between Tyranny and, so not here, where is it? Tyranny and, here we go, Tyranny and Tam. This is actually the perfect image right here. Her face of, she knows she's going to be not interrogated, she's going to be put on the spot by the investigators, and she does not feel comfortable.
No, absolutely.
And I really want to see where it goes.
Yeah, and you can see that she's going to get interrogated and asked everything about the escape of this prisoner they had, and she's going to give out things. I think it's getting closer and closer to the point they're going to regret not wiping her the way they wanted to when they first got her on board.
I think that will come at the end. I think Tyranny still thinks she can play her. I still think she thinks the doubts is an asset she can use, that eventually she'll contact the Colossus and that'll be their way in. I think that'll be the way they go. And I think that'll be her saving grace is not being wiped. I'm glad they didn't wipe her, because if they did, it wouldn't provide any story. Because at that point she'd just be gone. There's no once you're wiped, there's no coming back from it. I mean, you're not a droid that people can be broken, it can come back. However, there's no telling, and that could have played an interesting story now. And however, I don't think they would have worked for this target audience. I think for an older based show, maybe so. I think that could have, not saying necessarily The Mandalorian, but something for an age range similar ilk, that could work. For this kind of age group, I think leaving her but still giving her those foibles is a great way of doing it.
And I will say, if you go again onto StarWars.com, where they do have all the additional information about the episode, Tam was actually supposed to be in a TIE fighter in the dogfight at the beginning, and she was supposed to be the one behind Kaz as he was trying to escape, and also the one who shot down the mother's X-Wing and took that out. So it's nice to have taken her kind of out of that they're not going to be the one, right, she's literally one of us now, she's going to start shooting at her friends, and I think that's a wise move. I think it's too early if they did that. You're kind of taking away that redemption arc. If she can then come back, if she was the one shooting down her friends, that kind of makes a completely different story for her. So I'm really glad they took that out. But yeah, it was a nice touch that they did actually think that could be the case for her.
Again, I agree with that. I think if they had put her in, if they put her in later on, towards the end of the show, and that be one of the moments where she's being told in her ear, you need to take the shot, and she doesn't take it. I think that could be a good point later on, but I think now would have been too soon. It's what my fear was in this episode going through. It's like, they're not going to give her back this soon, are they? We're not even halfway through. We're just about halfway through, and if they give her back now, what point is there for the rest of the show?
Yeah, Tam should not be given back to the Resistance until literally, I would think, probably the double episode for the finale, first half of that she maybe returns. And that would be the perfect time for me for it to return, because before that, and you kind of sell short the whole story plot about going to the other side. Yeah.
At that point, then they just hunt down the Colossus because they want to take down someone who's defected again. But you almost see the First Order just going, leave them. They're not all worried. It's just a ship. I mean, at this point, you can see that they want the Colossus for a reason. They want that refueling station. That's the whole point, is they want it for a strategic reason. But there's more reasons they want, and I think going forward we're going to find more and more reasons why they want the Colossus. And I think Kylo Ren, when he comes into the show, will either give them a reason or tell them to stop, and that will be the point for Tyranny and Pyre going, well, no, we want to hunt it down, will then disobey the order. So I think that's the conflict coming up. I'm interested to see what will happen with the Supreme Leader, as he will be by that point. Well, as he is now, actually. We had to confirm the last episode.
Last episode, exactly. We found that he is Supreme Leader, and it's known throughout the galaxy that he is. So it's not just a secret anymore. It hasn't just happened. So I'm really excited for where we're going to go. Next episode I think we get is episode 9, the Vox Vortex 5000. That is the Colossus run out of money, Hyperis, everything, taking the ace in a race in Vranky's casino run by Vranky the Hutt. Good old Vranky. But yeah, so what that episode's going to bring, I'm guessing we're looking at more filler, we're looking at more racing. We're going to kind of move away.
This is the we told you this show was about racing, like Shifty Eyes episode. This is the Shifty Eyes. We told you this was really about racing episode coming up next week.
So I think it's going to be.
Is that the last one before the break? Is that the
no? There's
season?
one on December the 8th as well. So we've got 2 more definitely before we go into the break. If they're giving us a break at all, which I can only see they would when we get to Rise of Skywalker. But we do have episode 10 on the 8th of December, which is Kaz's Curse. A pirate curses Kaz, so that'll be interesting and weird. But yeah, so that's on the 8th of December. So we've got definitely 2 episodes. I can't see anything else scheduled at the moment, so I'm guessing that might be our mid-season break, and then we'll probably be back after January once the film's been out. But that's just my speculation at the moment. That's not official.
I can see that being the exact case, because at that point, then you'll have Rise of Skywalker come out, Mandalorian finish, end of season 2 Resistance, and then Clone Wars in March, and then by the time it's September, probably Cassian.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, they're starting to shoot soon, so we know they're going to be getting in production. So there's so much coming.
But, there's a lot coming.
And with this, I mean, I'm really enjoying Resistance. I'm kind of a little upset that Resistance is going to be finishing on this series. Now I've kind of got into it much more than I did for episode 1. I kind of want to see more stories as it goes, but I guess they're going to close out because the Skywalker Saga's finished. They're going to get off this timeline entirely and move to other places, obviously, other than Kenobi and Cassian, which are going to play in that area. But outside that, the main saga, I think they're going to kill everything off, go, right, we're done with this. Clone Wars will finish that out, and we'll leave this on to other places.
Well, when is Celebration next year?
August. It's a late one, isn't it? Next year.
It is. Because I have a sneaking suspicion. Welcome to our new era with the new film and direct to be announced in January. The new timeline, first animated show, I almost guarantee you'll get announced at Celebration in August.
Oh, without a single doubt. There'll be a panel like a goodbye to Resistance where they'll announce what's coming next or something like that. But whatever they do.
What must be interested here is because the show's airing now, of course. Clone Wars, we know, was finished production last year.
Yeah.
If they announce it in August, I see them releasing it next year. I see them next October or September. Here you go. Here is the new animated show.
Disney Plus gives them such a good platform now that once things are ready, and especially because they're now, it seems that all their shows across the board are doing this weekly release. Nothing's being just pumped out and sort of easy season, go watch it all if you want to.
Which I'm so grateful for.
Half-hour releases seem to be the way they're going, around that 35-minute mark every other week. So you're getting a nice break between the shows. It's got that build-up and people wanting and craving to see the next episode, which I think is being missed from some television with the binges that you could do. You don't kind of have that, having to wait and see a whole series and someone else has to catch up with me. Everyone's now on the same boat for the, like, especially for the Mandalorian, where we're sitting waiting for the next
Imagine
episode.
if we'd had the Mandalorian all in one day.
Don't get me wrong, once it's all out, all 8 episodes are done, I think you're going to be able to watch it like a 4-hour movie, and that'll be
awesome. I will
too.
watch it all in one go when it's out, but that's not the point. The point is, if it had all been out one day, we'd be out of content already.
Yeah, we'll be done.
I want to talk about it. I like the weekly discussions. I like it. I mean, I have friends of mine who, they play X-Wing. Actually, my mates from Sweden, funny enough, who they off of the back of our little group chat we had just for transportation. Now we've changed that to talk about the Mandalorian, purely because it's just so good. I have it, of course, with our One to the Force chat. I have it with friends of mine. So every week, my phone just goes, and here's like a million messages from everyone. Like, yeah, and I like that. I love the community. It's bringing the community together in a really positive way, and I think this show also does that. George, our resident other co-host here, he does enjoy the show in a way. He's waiting for his boys to come back. Waiting for Kylo Ren. We will probably have him back, I reckon, for the mid-season finale, because I reckon Kylo Ren will make his first appearance at some point.
Yeah, I'd say. If not, Phil and I will certainly be here right through at the end of the series.
Indeed. Oh, we will. And of course, just because the show will have its break doesn't mean we'll have a break. Actually, we will. Just because the show will end, that doesn't mean we will end. We'll be back, of course, in the new year for the second half of the season. Then, of course, we'll have the Clone Wars, which I guarantee you we will have George for as well. We'll then have, of course, the rest of the Mandalorian, our Rise of Skywalker content. We'll then have our Celebration build-up. Then we'll have Celebration itself, where the three of us, whether we have a roving reporter or not, will be glued to our screens for 4 days straight, just reporting on everything. And then, of course, we'll have whatever animated show comes next. Then, of course, Kenobi and Cassian in the build-up to the 2022 film, which we'll have our answer for in January. Basically, we've done our waiting of a year and a half of no content, and now here is, from here on out, many years to come.
We really have. We've got content coming out, and we've got some special things planned, especially around the Rise of Skywalker. We're looking at releasing something between when that airs to our little Christmas break. Hopefully having something to give to you to kind of watch over that time period, I think will be really fun once we get it all put together. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun coming up. But yeah, for this episode, we'll go back to it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the pacing. I enjoyed the visuals. I enjoyed the story. I just didn't need it to be her mother. That's
I completely agree
takeaway from it.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I love the pacing. I love the fact that it was in there, action. The whole thing was really, really well done. I love the visuals as well. I think we've got it here of just the TIE fighters just basically blowing out the hang of the X-Wing. Everything. I love the show. I just, again, agree with you on that particular note. Did need that extra layer. However, so the Vox 5000, whatever it is next week, that'll be a filler. However, I think we'll enjoy that as a fun episode. Yeah. I'm hoping that'll just be a good laugh. We don't need to worry too much about the content. The week after, the Curse, interested. However, after the break, after there's no Rise of Skywalker kind of waiting for the meat to come, then we'll have First Order from there on out, and then it will be the proper run up to the end of the show. And I think, I can't wait for it. Although, speaking of Resistance, I will use this as a sneaky little time just to remind you all that currently on our Facebook page, we are running a competition to win a Age of Resistance Poe Dameron comic. This is from my personal collection. This isn't just a picture. I think it's a lovely comic there. All you have to do is go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/was-the-force-of-stars podcast, and all you have to do is enter a competition where I put up a little post, and it's down there, which is, the question is, what is Poe Dameron's first line in episode 7, The Force Awakens? And yes, the winner will be announced on our show next Wednesday.
Indeed.
I think, any other further thoughts there, Dave, before we end the show?
No, just again looking forward to, and maybe like you say, a nice break episode next week. Hopefully a bit of fun and moving us on maybe a little bit forward with, even though the 3 episodes have tended to do that, they have moved us a little bit further forward in the story. So I'm hoping we'll get something like that. But with the Hutts involved, I think you can always have a good time with that as well. But yeah, just bring on more Resistance. I'm really enjoying it.
Indeed. And it's all left to me to remind you, of course, we have 2 episodes left of Resistance, 2 episodes left of The Mandalorian, and then we have The Rise of Skywalker. It is 24 days to go, 23 days to go.
Yes, it is. Now, countdown to 24 today, yeah, so...
Yeah.
With today's nearly over, it's 23, we'll count that. So, yeah, it's crazy how close we are to being there and seeing it. It's going to be a really
it's 23 day for us, don't forget, because it is on the Wednesday.
Yeah, the Wednesday night going into Thursday, yeah, so it's coming.
It's coming fast, and this is going to be good. So, of course, all you have to do is just to remind you, so thank you, of course, for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Once the Force of Stars Podcast, at the Force Podcast. You can find the video of this later on our YouTube and Facebook pages, and you can find the audio version later on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, that's an old one, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher. There we go. And of course, you can get our lovely merchandise down at the link below at our TeePublic store. Just search OWTF, all in capitals, and you'll be able to find us. And of course, it supports the show. Don't forget, we'll be back here same time next week for our next episode of Resistance Breakdown. Of course, we'll be back on Saturday with our next breakdown of the Mandalorian. And of course, we have our bi-weekly episodes as well. We've been Ones of the Force. May the Force be with you. Good night.